is a show, a podcast show. Do not be obsessed with your obsession. Believe it or not, this is just an entertainment. Creepy tale.
Thank you for listening to Creepy Tales. You are following Harry in this Creepy Tales story. This story is about the unknown voice. Hello. It happened about few years back when I was still in primary school. My mother and I rented a room in a 4-room flat, whom the landlord is an Amma. She had a maid. One night, the Amma and her maid went out for dinner. My mother and another friend, she also rented her own room, where in their room, while I was in the living room. Few minutes after, the Amma was out. My mom and I clearly remembered her room was still lit. She didn't close her door. Suddenly, the phone in her room started ringing. I wanted to answer the phone, but my mom told me it's invading others' privacy, going into their room without permissions. Of course, I didn't go in. Second later, the phone stopped ringing and a voice was heard. Hello. The other person's room door was open too, so all three of us heard the voice. We were then freaked out. Thank you again for listening to Creepy Tales. If you have any stories, please email at creepytalestrioz@gmail.com. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creepy Tales. Today I bring to you a story while we walk on one part of Singapore. As you can see from the view over here, we are in the midst of the darkness of the tropical rainforest that you will normally see in our small island of Singapore. Over here, what we can see is just darkness all around. But rest assured, this is a story that we will want to bring to you so that you can feel, so that you can hear, or probably you can even see in one of our footages. So keep listening to Creepy Tales. Right here I have a story that I have received from one of our listeners in Creepy Tales. This story came from in Korea. Okay, so without further ado, I will start the story now. Hi Max. Here in Korea, there is a small Christian farming community in a deeply wooded areas. There, my friends who are tough guys. One was a drug dealer and the other was gang members from LA. They had their terrifying experience. While I was in service at around 11 p.m, they were on a path that was heavily wooded and dark. This path had a history of being haunted. When the church community first moved in, they had several occurrences which prompted the pastor, a world-famous pastor, to perform an exorcism on the mountain. Since then, there were no more incidents. Well, at least not until my friends had their experience. Maybe it was a lack of faith in God. They were sitting about 100 yards into the path. They were just talking and laughing when they heard rustlings in the bushes. Okay guys, we are closing to an area which is near to a sea and also near to the deep forest. Okay, so we shall go in and keep continuing listening to the story. They were sitting about 100 yards into the path. They were just talking and laughing there when they heard rustling in the bushes. They stopped at whatever they were doing and were wondering what to do or what that was. They were at first worried it might be one of the leaders that had caught them, so they called out to see who it was. Strangely, they did not get any reply. They figured it was some kind of an animal, so they continued talking, when all of a sudden they heard an evil, wicked laughter. The sound started from behind them, but slowly it became louder and louder and louder, that it sounded as if it was all over them. When they heard this, they were scared and started running. They were all in close proximity to one another and they started tripping over each other. But they got up and just continued running. One of them looked back and blurted, "Who the hell is that?" He just turned back and ran as fast as he could. When I saw them, they were gasping for air and looked terrified. I asked them what had happened, and they keep pointing at the above. Once again, I stopped my story here. There seemed to be something that is peculiar. If you look at the video, no wind around us. Look at the other trees or other leaves around us. There's only these few leaves that is moving. Strange. Now it's giving me the goosebumps. They figured it was some kind of animal. Suddenly, they were all in close proximity of one another. And they just told me that they saw something above. So I asked the guy whom he had seen, and he said he saw a man in a really old traditional Korean clothes. This is all white clothes with a black hat, chasing after them. Although it was dark, the man's face seemed to glow by itself, and he could see the wicked smile the man had on his face. So the next day, we went up to the trail in broad daylight, and we found out some things that we did not know before. First, we found that there was a 400-year-old graveyard less than 5 feet off the trail. One guy that lived there, they were skeptical about their story and said it was probably some locals playing some tricks on them. He said the trail leads to another 200 yards or so to another part of the community. However, when we got to the part of the trail where the people from the village would have walked through to get there, there was nothing there. But yet, on our way there, we saw something very peculiar. Not only must the pranksters, if they were all playing tricks on my friends, had to walk through the trail in pitch black darkness and did not make any noise, there were also spider webs all over the place. This by itself is not just the eerie part. The strange thing was if someone were to walk through that trail less than 12 hours ago, there shouldn't be any spider webs, unless they could see spider webs in total darkness and avoided all of them. Nonetheless, this is very unlikely. Hence, no one came from behind, and no one could have come from the front, because they could have seen him when they escaped. The guys wouldn't bear to think what might happen to them if they had not run faster than they did on the night before. So, guys, look at the scenery here. Try to relate to the story that I've just bring to you. How can someone come from the back or from the front and still not being seen to the trails of that person coming from? And worse, if there were spider webs, those spider webs could have been torn by someone who walked through them. So, the question here is this for real? Or is this just a prank? Thank you for listening to Creepy Tales. This is Max. And remember, if you have stories that you want to contribute for us to share to all our listeners all over the world, keep sending your emails to creepytalestrioz@gmail.com. Believe it or not, this is Creepy Tales.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, please remember the stories that we share over here are just purely meant for entertainment purposes. Do not at any time take this seriously. And remember, always listen to Creepy
Thank you for listening to Creepy Tales. You'll be following Freddy in this Creepy Tales story. This story is about a spooky mountain adventure. The story that I will be sharing today is at Taiwan. It's about two guys, one girl went for trekking. Let's call the two guys A and B. Girls will be C. So they were trekking along some mountainous area, and C is the girl, had a video cam in her hand and was videoing the scenery whenever they walked past nice scenery. Then, in the early wee hours, she sprained her ankle and unable to continue. So the group decided to go back and seek treatment. As they tried to trek back, they couldn't find the way back. Walk and walk and walk. Kept going in the circles. You can see over here the darkness surrounding. This will be the scenery that most probably the girls encounters. As time passes and the weather was scorching, The girl said he had ran outward. A is the guy, volunteer to go find water, while B is another group boys stay with the C the girls. A went off for hours, didn't came back. So the B boys told C the girls to stay at the spot while he go look for A group boys. C the girls began to film down the surrounding while waiting for A and B the guys to return. Then she heard commotion behind her. She began to get scared. To her relief, the big boys appear from the bushes. As you can see, the surrounding here, thick bushes surrounded by tall trees. The B-boys appear from the bushes and told C the bad news. A's guy's body is in the ravine and he couldn't get to him, and suggest they go out and seek for help. Upon hearing A demise, C the girls dropped her camp and almost fainted. So B held her up and begged her to go out. But the video cam was still filming, and later on, after the entire commotion, slightly they hear something whispering in this darkness. From what you see here, it's like a giggling sound was nowhere to be found, but only voices. And they went to search for the video cam. But after they retrieved the video and download the clip, it showed that there's a white lady right on top of the tall tree that you will be looking at currently now. So, guess this is what they experience, that those girls and guys have been facing. It will be terrible if you look from the surrounding darkness, and if you are in your trekking and lost your way, if you can go out, there's nothing you can do. Thank you everyone for listening to Creepy Tales. If you have any stories, please email at creepytalestrioz@gmail.com. creepytalestrioz@gmail.com. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in Creepy Tales. Well, if you have creepy stories to share, you could email us at creepytalestrioz@gmail.com.